Next is Alaska DOT with Drew.
Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Drew Pavey. I'm the Pavement Management Engineer for Alaska, and I'll be talking to you today about a few things that we're doing up there. So I'll start by covering our 3 different regions, some of their geographical and environmental considerations. I'll then talk about our current pavement preservation practices. That fine interstate we have right there is our Alaska Highway that you would drive coming into Alaska from Canada, and that's one that our Northern Region DOT takes a lot of time working on that road. I'll then finish with a few successes and a few other things that are coming up in Alaska. So our 3 regions, I'll start with our Northern Region. It's our Arctic environment, and with it being Northern Alaska, it does get quite cold. It gets down to about -70 degrees at the extreme. And as you can imagine, that can cause some pretty extreme thermal cracking. They do also have almost all of our unstable permafrost. And that turns our roads into roller coasters at times. And out in Bethel, I remember I was out there on a site visit, and our maintenance group said they'd actually named some of the frost heaves out there because they could actually get air, and they called it the ski jump. And this region does have low traffic volumes. Like the Hall Road going to our north slope, the one that goes up to Dead Horse there, that's about a 420-mile road. It gets about 280 T total, I believe, most of it trucks hauling to and from the slope. And that road is, I think it's the only gravel NHS in the country. It's about half paved and half gravel, a lot of it's high float. And that's just because so much is unstable permafrost that our maintenance group just can't maintain pavement on most of it. So Central Region, on the other hand, is our urban center of Alaska. Anchorage has about half the population of the state, and when you include the Mat-Su Valley to the north and Kenai Peninsula to the south, you probably have about 70% of the population of Alaska in that small area right around Anchorage. About 40% of people in Anchorage in that area use studded tires, so we're on a pretty rapid resurfacing cycle on a lot of our roads there, about 6 to 12 years depending on the road. And like I said, high traffic volumes, high population. They do have a little bit of that unstable permafrost. Bethel, that city I was talking about, it's actually there. You can see it. It's in western Alaska. And we have a little bit more on our Glen Highway up near the regional boundary with our Northern Region. South Coast Region, that one, it begins in southeast Alaska. You can see Juneau there, our capital, the southeast on the panhandle of Alaska. It then extends west across the state through Kodiak Island, then Unalaska, Dutch Harbor, and then the Aleutian chain goes out towards Russia and Japan, and out there at Adak and Attu, you're closer to probably Japan or Russia than to Anchorage or anywhere else. It's about a 3-hour flight on a jet, 3.5-hour flight on a jet out to those places. And if you go there, you're going to be there for a week because flights come in once a week. So it's a pain to get out there. So standard pavement preservation treatments, our Northern Region uses very standard treatments. High floats, chip seals, patching, and banding repairs. And the high floats and chip seals are mainly through areas of unstable permafrost, so our maintenance crews come out and they'll level the road back out when it gets too bad. It'll look like this. It's a mixture of patches and high floats. And this is a road I drove this year. It's called Lake Louise Road. It goes up to a lake in our Northern Region, and our materials group up there really regrets paving that road because it was gravel before, and they decided after it turned into a roller coaster like this after about 6 or 8 years, they should have left it as gravel. So this year, maintenance and a contractor was out there leveling the road back out, and I turned around when I hit that construction. The banding repairs that our maintenance crews in Northern Region do look like this. They come out and they remove a band of pavement on those severe thermal cracks. Like I said, it gets down to -70 in some areas, and they'll get severe enough that our maintenance crews have to go and remove a band of pavement over them, patch it, do that every 50, 100 feet going down some of those roads. And you'd think they leave it pretty rough doing that, but they've done it enough that they actually leave the roads quite smooth when they do those repairs. And this road here is actually a Richardson Highway, and it's the first success I want to mention because traditionally our Northern Region directed almost all of their pavement preservation funds for high floats and chip seals to those unstable permafrost areas. It's let's fix these roads and keep them serviceable. So now this was the first year they're actually going and directing those funds to extending the life of a road like this one you can see right here. This is right where they then came through and chip sealed through for 11 miles. So the mindset, I think, is starting to change in that region and around Alaska, hopefully all of Alaska, that let's not just focus on those bad roads, let's actually work on keeping these good or fair roads good. Central region, on the other hand, their bread and butter treatment is mill and fill. Like I said, they have a lot of people using studded tires. We do have some deformation rutting around some of our intersections, but for the most part, it is studded tire wear. And Central region uses a super pave mix. It's a PG 64-40 binder for the most part, very highly polymerized, about 7% or so. And we incorporate hard aggregates into that. Hard aggregates are those with a Nordic abrasion of less than 8, and we've seen that it does improve the studded tire resistance when we import harder aggregates on those roads with high rates of studded tire wear. We actually bring most of it down from Cantwell. We have to train it down. It's about halfway between Anchorage and Fairbanks, but I think Steve actually did a life cycle cost analysis and showed that it was even more cost effective with the increased cost to reduce the rate of resurfacing. This picture here is the second success I want to highlight, and this one is a thin inlay. For a number of years, I've been, back in 2016, 2017, my old boss and I talked to the region and we said, hey, you know, the rut on this road is only 3/4 of an inch. Why don't we do a 1-inch mill and fill versus a 2-inch and see how it holds up? And at that time, that project got delayed for funding reasons. The ruts got over an inch and it got changed to that 2-inch mill and fill. But in 2020, we did talk to them and they did this test strip on Fireweed Boulevard in Anchorage. And this was a 1-inch thin inlay, still using that PG 64-40 binder and incorporating aggregates from a hard aggregate source. And the region did a site visit there this year, and after 2 winters, they said, this is working well enough, we want to look at doing some more of it. So that was good news for me, and I'm expecting on the next preservation plan I get from them. I send them a list of recommendations annually, and then they take some off, put others on, and then we talk about it, and then that goes up to our executives. I'm expecting to see some thin inlays on that, and also, I think, some fogger sand seals. We do those on low-volume roads, and that's actually the treatment that I think our South Coast region needs to start doing a lot more of is sand seals, rejuvenators. And going to our South Coast region, they do some mill and fills. They do have some areas of studded tire wear like Anchorage does, Central region. In Juneau, the capital, they have one road in particular that gets most of the traffic, and that one does have a fairly high rate of studded tire wear. They actually import aggregates from Canada, hard aggregates, and they've found that that almost doubled the life of that road because I think it's just the local aggregates in South Coast region are typically pretty poor. A lot of those, we've looked at hardness of aggregates around the state, those on those islands are just a lot worse than the others, and that really increases the rate of studded tire wear. They do have a non-NHS annual chip seal program. They apply those on low-volume roads. Their maintenance crews travel to 1 or 2 islands a year and do some chip sealing there. But it's really a lot of their problems are geotechnical. The panhandle down there and other areas is actually considered a rainforest. They get a lot of water, and with that comes a lot of rock fall, a lot of landslides, mudslides, those kinds of problems. And this site here is actually called Pillar Mountain on our Kodiak Island, and I'm just showing that because this is a road that they did chip seal. And I think the studs are starting to wear through it a little bit, but they did put a very robust retaining structure in there to hold the rock back, and it's almost overtopping that now. So to summarize some successes, Northern region, they're directing funds to some stable embankments now. I'm very excited about that. They're actually planning another one of those banding and chip seal projects next year. And they're doing their first scrub seal as well, they told me. So I think that'll be a great treatment for them. A lot of their roads, with all the frost cracking and transverse cracking that they get, it might be beyond what you would want to chip seal. But I think a scrub seal would be a good intermediate treatment between doing one of those and doing like a full rehab on the road. Central region, doing that thin inlay, I think is a success. And the fact that the region thinks that it's performing well enough, they want to start doing more of it. They do have some upcoming sand seal projects. And our South Coast region, still working on them. They are interested in trying some thin inlays down there. And they do have a sand seal test strip coming up. In Alaska, we typically use a lot of GSB products. They're looking at a GSB 88 in particular, and I think that would be great for them. I hope it goes well, because if it does, I think we'll be seeing a lot more of it. With it being so much rain, a rainforest in all those areas, so much water, keeping that water out when they do still get freeze thaw down there, I think would really extend the life of a lot of their roads. So that's what we're doing up in Alaska. And are there any questions?
What, before I get there, Drew, is there any special equipment that you're using for that 1-inch overlay as opposed to the 2-inch?
No, I don't think we used any special equipment for that. That was just a 3/8 inch minus mix.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. How do you do with the ride on those thin lift, 1-inch thin lifts? Does the ride come out? Do you use a ride spec on them, and how well does that perform?
The ride with like a profilograph? Is that what you're...
Pardon me?
What was the question?
How well does the ride? Do you have a ride spec on those when you do that?
Yeah.
And does the ride come out well?
Yeah. We've only done the one test strip. It was only 800 feet long. We've had maintenance do some overlays like that, and those are hit and miss, but we are going to be incorporating a ride spec with it.
Okay, and my other question is, could you describe the banding procedure that you use? That looks really interesting. We have some problems with that in Montana with our having thermal cracks that start rising, and we've actually ended up grinding about 4 feet, grinding them down about 4 feet across to...
I might tap Steve in on this one if he knows more about this. I do know that our maintenance crews go and they just remove a band of pavement. I drove over that a lot this year, about 3 feet wide, centered over the transverse crack, and then they patch it. And that's the extent of my knowledge about the repair, but I could definitely contact our maintenance group and get more information for you. And if you know more about how they... That's exactly right. Okay.
So they grind it 3 feet wide and then patch it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is that full depth?
Yes. But typically their pavements are only 2 to 3 inches in thickness on a lot of those roads.
The question about the 1-inch treatment, when you did that, what did you, here's the dilemma for us. We have set of tires too, not to the degree you do, but the worry is when the studs wear 3/4, what's to keep it from popping off? And so how well will can we bond it down? And we did one where we actually specified a spray paver. Not sure we're going to do that again, but getting it tacked down is the worry and the dilemma. And a lot of times they don't want us to allow traffic to run on that ground surface, but if you let traffic on the milled surface, you can get a very clean. So that's the dilemma. How did you guys deal with that?
So we just told our construction group to tack it really well and watch it, and counted on them to do that. I did hear about some construction issues on that job. They did that very late season. We told them to not do that. That night it was down to near freezing, and we said, why did you do this? We told you this is critical. It's a test strip. You need to do this in good conditions. Why did you pave this almost in October? And I thought it was just going to fail, to be honest. And I was asking our construction group, can you do anything about this? Can you go reapply this next year? They said, nope, we're closing the project. This is what it is. And I said, okay, I'm not very hopeful for this. And then I heard the region went out. I looked at it. There was areas of bad segregation in some parts of it. But overall, the region went out, looked at it. They said I guess it didn't do what I thought it was and fail. So I'm really happy because I want to see us actually do at least one project with it. And I expect it'll be one project at a larger scale. And then we'll watch it for a couple more years and see if we have any issues like that. But so far, so good. I'm going to be watching it every year and hoping it does hold up.
Robert Young, New Mexico DOT, on those 1-inch lifts, do you have trouble with crushing the aggregate when you compact it?
On that job, no, we didn't. Not that I know of. Mainly our maintenance group had done a lot of these before, and we just wanted to do it on a larger scale and say, we did some Pearl testing on it. That's our test to evaluate studded tire performance, and it didn't do quite as well as like our 2-inch super pave, but it did pretty good still. But on that job, no, we didn't see any issues with that.
Well, thank you, Drew.
All right, thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.